At that time, the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Do you believe that? Right now, not. We are subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected all of creation to futility, in hope. Futility and hope, weeds and wheat. It should come as no surprise, as experienced as we are, that weeds might appear where we would rather have something useful. I personally would like it to be that whenever I plant something, only that grows, and not the weeds. Especially early on, those weeds that are a dead ringer for what you planted, unless you study the leaves. And who has time to study the leaves of every growing thing in the garden? There's one in particular that bedevils me, growing alongside the zinnias, happily spreading its roots unseen until the zinnias blossom. Even then, it can go unnoticed because it doesn't blossom, but it keeps growing up, whereupon it grows ugly, and then you notice. When you pull one of these weeds, it comes up easy enough, but it brings 3 zinnias with it. It's infuriating. Who invented that weed? God did, to subject all of creation to futility. There's nothing you can do about the weeds unless you destroy the wheat. Futility. There's nothing you can do about evil. Futility. There's nothing you can do to remove evil people from your midst. Why are evil people in your midst? So that you can trust God to bring you to him in the end. So that in the end, you will shine like the sun in the kingdom of your Father. Do you believe that? Once upon a time, in a land far away, there was a very nice lady. We'll call her Georgiana, who was installed by the pastor as the director of a food bank, a loosely organized ministry of the church. In fact, the voters of the church had no idea that there was a food bank attached to the church. The pastor, on a whim, started it of his own volition. Nevertheless, once everyone stopped being mad at the pastor, they recognized the program as a potentially good program. I mean, who wouldn't want to feed the poor? And so they did for 40 years, with Georgiana always as director. Even early on, however, they noticed that Georgiana ran the program with an iron fist, and she fought to keep the food bank as loosely organized as possible. No one really understood what the big fuss was all about, so when she bared her teeth, they backed off trying to formalize the program, especially with regard to accounting. As long as poor people got fed, they reasoned, it was okay to have a few irregularities when the money was being counted. With the pastor's blessing and with Georgiana's persistent advocacy for the program, the food bank became renowned throughout the region as a top-notch ministry, becoming a thing of lore in district newsletters. What's Georgiana doing for the poor this month? They were so proud. Eventually, the old pastor died, and a new pastor came, and with one glance, he saw a massive embezzlement undertaking. An experienced eye could see easily that Georgiana was very obviously skimming money, and lots of it from the cash donations being made by perfectly trusting people. She was stealing money, and had been stealing money habitually, to the tune of several thousands a year. Georgiana was already wary of this new fellow, and with one look into each other's eyes, they both knew that they both knew. Now the game was on. What should he do? Should he call the police? If he does not call the police, he becomes complicit in theft. If he does call the police, he destroys the food bank, which feeds the poor. Regardless of what he does, she is going to do her best to destroy him. My dad, when he was a pastor, drove himself mad in these cases. They're everywhere, sometimes involving money, sometimes involving sex, or lying, or really bad teachings, or meanness. Plain old meanness. Books have been written for pastors. Thick books and thin books, serious books and lighthearted books, how to manage these situations, how to get rid of evildoers, how to bring peace to troubled congregations. Oh, it's sad. But there's a certain melancholic sense of futility about congregational life. If you pull the weeds early, more will spring up later. If you pull the weeds up later, you'll pull the wheat along with it. Imagine if you grew to love Georgiana because you saw, behind all the grimacing and ill will she was projecting, good works being done. Even though she herself was doing it for evil. Imagine if you grew to love her and then she was arrested. And it came out that the pastor who installed her as director way back when, beloved pastor who buried your father and your mother and married you and baptized your babies, when it came out that he taught her to embezzle, imagine the blow to your faith. Would you be pulled up alongside her? It's possible. Jesus went to a lot of trouble to sow the seed so that you could grow up wheat, even so far as to give his life for you, to nourish you with his own blood, to fertilize you, so to speak, with his living body. He wants you to bear fruit, to yield 100-fold or 60-fold or 30-fold. How are you going to produce your yield if you are pulled up along with the weeds? Death on a cross is an awful lot of trouble. To bear the sins of the whole world for you is an awful lot of trouble to let you just be pulled up. No. You endure futility, incapable of removing evil people from your midst, groaning for the redemption of our bodies with an emotion too deep for words. You endure them faithfully, trusting God to finally bring you into his harvest home, as the hymn goes, into his harvest home where all the hopes are realized. Who hopes for what they can see? That's not hope. No, we hope for what is unseen, believing in the meantime that the Son of Man did sow the seed for our benefit. When the time comes, we will inherit what sons inherit, the kingdom itself, the kingdom of our Father to whom we pray, and we will shine like the sun. Do you believe this?